Hey guys, welcome back, and in today's video we're going to talk about object destructuring in JavaScript. So what is object destructuring? So object destructuring is an easy way to create variables from an object. So most of the time you create variables using an object whereby you do it manually. So let me just show you. So let's assume we have a user object with a name of, let's say, TechWithTwin, then an age of maybe 20 years, and and then that's it. So in case you want to create an object, you want to create a variable for this user's name, you could do const name is equals to user.name, and then const age. You can use const already, either will work. You can do user.age. So this is one way of creating variables from an object. And then if you console.log name, and then console.log age. So let me change this one to my name. So if you console log my name and age and run this script, you can see that my name is printed and the age is printed. So this is one way. So imagine we have others. So what other variable we could do? Maybe school, we can do TWT. And then the same way we access the name age using the dot notation, we can access the school. And then you can say school is equals to user.school. And then if we console.log school, you can see now we get the school as well printed out in the screen. So this is one way of creating variables from an object, and this is a very tedious way because you are simply repeating. You can see my name here corresponds to my name here, so you're creating the same variable as the key. But we could change this and say, let's change the age. We can say his age. So using this way, we are able to change the variable name. So here we can say his age. Let me just remove the school, don't need the school. And then if I console log this, so this is still the same way. So we can see we can change the variable name, which doesn't have to match up with the key name. So what is destructuring? So destructuring comes into the rescue here in such a way that now instead of declaring all these variables in the same way, what we do is that you start with the declaration keyword, so you can create a let or a const because you want to create a variable. Or we can start with the user. So when we start with the user, we can assign the user's properties to be created as variables. So we can say, we use this syntax whereby you use the curly brackets. Then inside the curly brackets, we access whatever we need inside the object. So you can see here inside the user, we have my name, we have the age, and then we have the school. So inside here, I can access my name, and this will go ahead and create my name variable, which will correspond to the key name. So you can see my name key corresponds to the name here in the my name. So if I go ahead and console log this, we can see my name is printed out because my name key corresponds to the key name in the user. So we can do the same by using the comma. We can get the age and then we can get the school. So this will go ahead and create 3 different variables that match up the key present in the object itself. So we have my name here. So when we say we want my name inside the user, JavaScript will go ahead and create a variable called my name, and then assign the value that is present to the key with the name my name. All right. So JavaScript will do this. So JavaScript will create a variable called my name under the hood and then assign it to user and then grab this. So let me show you. This is what JavaScript will do under the hood. So JavaScript will do this under the hood, whereby it will try to match up the name you provided for the variable name with the key name. So what happens if you provide something that doesn't exist? So I can say her name. So her name is not present in the user. And since this is JavaScript, you're not going to get an error until we run this code. So what do we do? So let me console log her name. So when you console log her name, we get undefined because similar way I told you. So we are creating a variable called her name. So we can say const her name. Then JavaScript will go to the user and try to get her name. So let's see. We get the same result because this is what JavaScript is doing under the hood. So JavaScript is going ahead and trying to get the value you provide as the variable name and trying to access that property in the object. And this is the same way. This is how you access variables using the bracket notation, whereby you say her name. And then if you access a variable a property that does not exist, you get undefined. So this is the same thing we are getting here. So now we need to take this an extra step. So let me open up my docs. We have seen what destructuring is. So destructuring is an easy way to create variables from an object. And then why it's needed, we have seen it, is that it helps us to create variables instantly without having us to declare variables, and it's few lines of code. The next thing we need to talk about is adding a default. So you saw we have created the let me collapse this, and then so you have seen we can console.log the age, and then if we do that we can get the age as 20. But now what if I don't want this to be called age? How do I change? Because you saw when we created the variable, so we say const age is equals to user.age. You can use that or you can use the bracket notation, doesn't matter. When you do this, we still get the age, but now we have the privilege of changing this to his age. We can change the variable name and then we can reference his age, and this one still works the same. So how do you do this? How do you achieve this using object destructuring? So it's very easy. First thing is that you get the age, which is user, which it comes from the user. And then if you want to change the name, you add a colon and then you add his age. So this will go ahead and pick the age from the user and then reassign it to this name. All right. So that's what we are talking about. This one is called adding aliases. I've just jumped ahead. So this one is what is called adding an alias. An alias is an alternative name whereby JavaScript will get the age and then assign it to this variable name. So let's talk about defaults. So defaults occur whereby in your process of destructuring, you want to, we saw that if you access something that does not exist, so let's say, let's say we want to access this person's eye color, and then let's print the eye color. So eye color does not exist in the user object. So to add a default, you come here and add an equal sign and say, let's say black. So that means even if we don't have the eye color inside the object, we add a default value to when we are destructuring. All right. And then that's what is called adding defaults. What we talked about, changing the name, is called adding aliases. And the next thing we need to talk about is computing values. So let's change this to, let's just add some new property. So let's add a prefix, which is now maybe Mr. So how, let me get rid of all this. So how can we get a full name with a prefix in it? So I want us to be able to achieve const full name will be equals to user.prefix plus an empty space, then plus user.my name. So let me just break this one into some few lines. And then this one plus my, so yeah, user dot my name. And then if we console log the full name, and then we run the code, we get Mr. TechWithTwin. So how do we do this inside using the object destructuring? So if you want full name, the first thing you need to do here is that the order here matters because we are creating variables. So if we grab the my name and then we grab the prefix is equals to user, we get the my name and the prefix. So my name will be created before the prefix. So let's start with the prefix. So we can get the prefix. So we can get the prefix and my name. This will be created before my name. And then here we have now access to, inside here we have access to prefix and my name. So we could do full name. So full name, we could say full name is equals to, and then we open. So we are just assigning a default because full name does not exist. And then we now have access to the prefix. So we can say, we can use, let's use the old way. So we can say the prefix, we have access to the prefix at this point, and then plus, then we add an empty space. Let me just finish, and then we add my name. So let me just break this one into fewer lines like that. And then like that. So what am I saying? Because prefix will be created before my name and my name will be created after prefix. By the time we are assigning a default value to the full name, we already have access to the prefix and my name. That means we can add them as the default. So if I come here and console.log full name. So if I console log full name, you can see now the full name gets my Mr. TechWithTwin, because let me just these names are very long, can't be seen. So that's how it looks like. So that means when we are assigning a default value, I've talked about default values. We already have the prefix, and then we can now do some mathematics here. We can just add the prefix plus the name, and then we can simplify this and do this, whereby this one is templating in JavaScript. So we can do this. So it's still the same thing. So we are just assigning a default, but since these two have already evaluated, we have access to them. So then let's go next. So we have talked about adding defaults, computing values, adding aliases. Aliases is what I said, you change the name. All right, so let's look at the next subtopic, whereby is nested destructuring. So let's assume the school now is not a single value. The school is yet another object with a name. Let's just add the name, and the name will be, let's say, Harvard University, and then you can say location. Then we can say 123 4th Avenue, and then we can say maybe the vice chancellor is called John Doe. So now here we have another scenario whereby we have something called nested object. So a nested object is an object inside an object, but now this one describes the school. So we can get access to the school using destructuring from the user, and then if you console.log the school, now we get the whole object. All right. So what we could do is that we already have the school. We can continue destructuring, and inside the school we can get the name is equals to school. We are continuing to destructure because right now the school now represents another object which we can continue destructuring. So we can continue destructuring the school, and then if we run this right now, you can see Harvard University, because the school now at line 30, the school now is an object, and then we can still destructure the school and grab the name. But now this one looks a bit weird. So why not we continue here? So we said how we can add aliases. So why not we destructure immediately? So we have access to the school and then we can destructure the school directly here and grab the name. So do you see where that syntax is coming from? So we can now continue destructuring the school and grab the name, which gives us the same result. All right. And then if we have the name here, the name is another object, and then the name is, let's say the name has a title which now has Harvard University. And then, so we already have the name. If we console log the name, we'll see an object which has a title. And then now here we can say const title. We can destructure from the name the title. And then if we console log the title, now you can see the title is still, okay, so that's the title is still Harvard University. So that means we can continue instead of just writing another line where we have the name, we can continue to destructure and grab the title. And then this title, we can say, we can change the name using the aliases and say school name. And then now here, I can access school name. Same result, but we have a level whereby you don't need to keep destructuring. It gets a bit weird if you keep destructuring. So you can go until level 1. Level 1, I think level 1 is okay, but don't go more deeper inside destructuring. And then finally, let's see how we can use this destructuring syntax. So I'm going to delete everything here and create a function. Let's create our user. No. Yeah, we could create a user. So we can say const user is equals to name TechWithTwin. And then we can say the age is 20. And then here we can create an object. We can create a function now. We can say function greet me. So in this function, we get access to a user, and then whatever this function does, it console.log user.name, and then it console.log user.age. And then here, when you are calling the function, we give it the user. So if you go ahead and run this, you can see now we do console log the name and the age, whereby the name is TechWithTwin and the age is 20, because this user object is being passed as it is. So this one is exactly equals to this. And then you can console log them, and then we can even console log the whole object so that you can see, log the whole user so that we can see how it looks like. So we can do, you can see now this one is an object, and that means instead of us having to do user.name, we can go ahead and straight up destructure that object inside. So we could now, if we do console log the name, you can see the name. So we went ahead and destructured that variable that would be passed, and then we get access to the individual values. So the other thing we could do is that we can destructure functions. So let's assume this function, it returns, let's assume this function returns an object. So let's remove that. So this function basically returns an object. All right. So that means if we console.log and then we call this function is going to give us an object back. So you're going to get the name and the age. That means we can now destructure this function and say const name is equals to, we call the function. And then here we have now access to the name. We are still applying the same rules of destructuring. And then now you can see, you can console log the name. And that's it, guys. That's how you can use destructuring to make sure your code looks clean. And that's it, guys. So like and share with your friends. Thank you.